Have you ever blamed somebody for something only to realize that it was really about you? That's a projection. This is the thing that silently sabotages us from having beautiful relationships, not only to other people, but to ourselves. And today I'm going to show you what projection is and help you stop it for good. I'm Amy Elizabeth, your energy evolution mentor, here to make spirituality simple. And today we are going to talk about projection and how it might be ruining your relationships, not only with others, but also with yourself. So there's two ways to really define projection so that we can understand it and get in front of it. So we have our psychological, which is Sigmund and Freud, the godfathers of psychology. And then there's the spiritual perspective. And I'm going to go into the psychological first. So Freud would be talking about projection as a defense mechanism. This is how we protect and defend and stay victim to whatever the shadow or the emotion, the sensation, the feeling that we're blaming somebody else for. This is how we continue to protect and defend that thing, right? And so what that would look like is if you're blaming somebody else for being angry, but not actually looking at yourself. And what happens with this is that every time we get into the pattern of pointing the finger or being in what I call that level one energy, that victim, that apathetic way, or that lethargic kind of energy, the heavy, dense energy of those people are doing this thing. It's not me. Everything in my life is showing me how I'm never going to have what I want. Right? And then you can start picking apart all the patterns and themes that are underneath that, whether it be being a victim, being in conflict, being in defiance, being in procrastination, or any of the other heavier, constantly being sad and like life doesn't show up for you and is victimizing you. So this is Freud's way of talking about projection and how we protect and defend. And then Jungian, Carl Jung, the Jungian perspective is more on shadow work. So this sort of bridges the gap with the spiritual perspective. And I really can get behind this. And below, you can find my reflection assessment, which is really all on shadow work. And so basically, it names the 5 different kinds of shadows that show up and which is the one that's most present for you. Because remember, life is subjective. So it's a snapshot based on however the environment is showing up for you and reflecting back. And so again, with Jungian's perspective, it's all about reflection. Life is a mirror, right? So what is the shadow that's showing up? That's the dark pieces of yourself that doesn't feel good and you're not willing to recognize, pay attention to accept, but you're rejecting and pushing it away. And every time you push it away or you resist it, it continues to persist and show up everywhere in your life, specifically in relationships. And so what happens more often than not in relationships is that when we're bothered by something or affected or feel some kind of way, regardless, I'm not going to try to name it, but we feel some kind of way about another person and how their behavior is. There's an old adage, you spot it, you got it. and honestly, that's the truth. So if you're annoyed by something, chances are you have not evolved or ascended past it or above it to be unaffected and to get the beauty and the light of the lessons, right? And so what that could look like is you're in a relationship with somebody and you are consistently blaming them. So what that can look like in a relationship is you are consistently insecure, feeling inadequate, like they're going to outshine you at any point in time. And almost to the point of, because you feel inadequate, you then say, why do you have to try to be bigger and compete with me all the time? Or why do you have to X, Y, and Z? And so every time you believe that they're outshining you, it's because you're making yourself small and you're being victimized once again by this energy. Another way that it shows up in relationship is when you believe somebody might be cheating on you. And so you're consistently feeling like you need to call them forward and have them own up to something that they didn't do. Why is that? Because you're feeling sensitive and inadequate in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in your physical body or it's emotionally, or maybe you have a thought pattern running in your head. And this is your shadow that you're not paying attention to. So projection really is about you consistently putting it externally to you. And when you do that, imagine how it would feel like just right now. If I was to tell you that you were doing something that you weren't, would you want to hang out with me? I mean, I wouldn't. And I know in my marriage, this was something that showed up all the time. There was this competitive nature, and it was constant projection, him on me and me on him, because we both felt misaligned with ourselves. So therefore, we couldn't have a healthy relationship. And so the shadow to that was to take time apart to pay attention to what was triggering us underneath the surface, what we were actually sharing or pointing the finger at the other person for, so that we could then work on that and look at every aspect of our life and where it shows up. And that's how you begin to heal projection. So healing projection looks like taking emotional responsibility and ownership over your thoughts and your feelings. And so when you're in relationship or friendship and you want to start to tell somebody something about themselves without permission, without an invitation, and you just go ahead and share that thing, then really what you're doing is almost a form of curse and cursing, because you're basically telling them and casting out words over somebody about how you believe that they're being, when it's actually the way you're being. And what you're doing is also shrinking and dimming their light. And so if you really want a healthy relationship and you really desire to have a relationship that is fulfilling and growth oriented, first you need to have a relationship with yourself. And first you get to look at your shadow. You get to look at how you protect and defend parts of yourself, and how that protecting and defending actually creates you remaining a victim in your life, to your schedule, to other people, and to all the things that you think you can't be. And lastly, to do the work looks like really taking time and space, writing these things down, documenting them, because the mind will do fantastical things and it will make up these amazing, elaborate stories. And so if you're in partnership, and as I said before, you believe this person is cheating on you and you're sharing that with them and you're projecting that onto them because you really want to be with somebody else or because you feel inadequate in some kind of way, write these things down before you go and share this with a person, and do the work. Look at your shadow in all the ways that it shows up. And as you begin to accept, acknowledge, and call it forward as a part of you, then you no longer are making it separate than you. And remember, just to bring it all back around, when you push it away and you reject it and you make it separate than you, that is the same as projection. Right? Because you're externally pushing something onto someone else so they get to then assume responsibility because you won't. When you take all of who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you make it a beautiful pie, then you become whole. And this is doing the work. I'm so grateful that you've watched this video to the end. I'm so grateful that you're here and paying attention to the work. It means so much to me. So please like, subscribe, and share this video so that you can make your life awesome and live in awe. Until next time.